So, in the original world, CM Punk dropped the title to The Rock. But in this world, instead, Punk ain't dropping it to The Rock. Instead, Rock's gonna put over Punk. Now, as for why in this world he's gonna put over Punk, a few reasons. For starters, The Rock feels like Punk is the star who could be a top athlete. Maybe he talks Vince into, like, he uses his backstage power to give Punk the win. Vince is like saying how, oh no, seeing a Rock would be a great Hollywood WrestleMania match. And Rock could be all like, doesn't matter, jabroni, I wanna put over that CM Punk guy. I had to do an impersonation there, even though I said I never want to do them that much. But I like to do them for jokes, so yeah, there we go. So yeah, Rock uses his backstage power. Punk gets the win at the end, and instead of it being The Rock, it's CM Punk who gets the big Royal Rumble win. Punk would probably win dirty, obviously. They're going to try to keep The Rock looking cool, strong. They can't have Punk beat him clean. So yeah, Rock wins. So, on a few nights later on Raw, Punk decides that he's going to change the WWE Champion's design, and the title design The Rock went with in the original world. That's going to instead be CM Punk and Paul Heyman who present the design. They're the ones who talk about how this title was so awful and that it needs to change. John Cena comes out, he does this whole speech about how he made that title design, how the WWE Champion's relevant, Punk's not doing anything to make it relevant, he's doing some kind of speech like that, and then Vince comes out and announces that at Elimination Chamber there'll be a chamber match, and Punk uses his power to get the Shield in a six-man tag match. Their tag match will include Team Hell No and some random babyface guy. We'll say, for the sake of the story, it's I don't know. I don't really remember 2013's babyfaces that much. Chris Jericho. There, he popped in my head. And the next match will be Dolph Ziggler versus Randy Orton. So the chamber match is set. John Cena, CM Punk, Randy Orton, and the Shield members. All three of them. That will be the big chamber match. The first two entries would be Cena and Roman. The third entry would be Rollins, fourth Ambrose, fifth Randy, and sixth Punk. The whole time, the Shield and Punk are destroying everyone. Because if you remember that whole thing with the Shield and CM Punk being together, they're going to still be together, and you're just going to have to deal with it. So, yeah, Punk, Ambrose, Rollins, and Roman, the four of them throw Randy Orton through the chamber pod, throw him in the ring, and they all pin him. Like, after spamming their finishers, they take Orton out of the match. Now it's just John Cena alone. Cena is basically underdogging the whole time. He's able to reverse Rollins' curb stomp into an STF, tapping him out. He reverses Roman Reigns' spear into an attitude adjustment. 1, 2, 3. Reigns is out. Ambrose and Punk are going together. But however, after that, Punk notices Ambrose is clear, rolls him up. 1, 2, 3. Ambrose is out. Punk and Cena go in for a few minutes. And CM Punk wins, obviously. He's going to retain the belt because I don't think it makes sense to give it to Cena here. And if you're wondering the Rumble winner, it is The Undertaker. Taker wins the Rumble, and he comes out on Elimination Chamber announcing that his opponent will be CM Punk at WrestleMania 29. And that would be Punk's next feud. WrestleMania 29 happens, and it's Punk versus Taker. This will instead be the main event of WrestleMania 29 instead, giving Punk his main event for WrestleMania. Now, as for other stuff on the card, Cena is going to instead be booked against someone else, and same with Rock. As for their opponents, I think they can go with Cena versus Triple H. Oh, wait. Probably Rock for Triple H would make more money. Cena would probably go into a program with either Del Rio, or you could book him against someone else. I don't know. So, yeah, that's going to kind of be the programs going to WrestleMania. Now, the matchup would actually be very similar to Punk vs. Taker in the original timeline. Cena is basically fighting his opponent, and it doesn't matter who he's fighting, and I would give John Cena the win here. Rock and Triple H, I feel like, will be the fight, and Triple H is probably going to win because Triple H wins, lol. As for not Triple H, but Undertaker versus CM Punk, Undertaker ends up winning the belt, and he finally gets another world title run to his collection. But CM Punk isn't too pleased about Taker winning. So Punk and Heyman plan out an idea, and that's to sue the WWE to own the company. And this is going to be probably one of the dumbest ideas I have for like a what if idea. Like I made some kind of ideas that would be considered controversial in my JoJo what ifs. I give Kakiwan a son or kid, and I've also made up original characters to kind of be in there. So this may be the dumbest thing. Like I've done some dumb stuff on my what ifs before, unrealistic ideas. This could be the dumbest one. I think CM Punk would end up suing the company, and he would kayfabe own the company. That's kind of how I would do it. Punk could play the heel GM figure for a while, and his plan would be to ruin the Undertaker's life. Though Taker's a part-timer, Punk forces Taker to appear on each night of Raw, or else he's fired. Like give him like a Vince McMahon impression, like have him do a Vince impression just for it. So on every night of Raw and SmackDown, because the brand split was not even there, it's basically dead at that point, CM Punk is forcing The Undertaker to fight so many guys. You know, guys like Dean Ambrose, Seth Rollins, Roman Reigns, Dolph Ziggler, Biggie Langston, Fandango, all the heels he can think of. Taker has to fight them. Taker, straight after them, is beaten down. It's like, when we get to Extreme Rules, we get Punk versus Taker with a beaten down Taker. And Punk, on the final night on the go-home show of, like, Raw or SmackDown, Punk doing his crisscross kind of seat in the middle of the ring while Taker is just crawling down after a beatdown from the Shield, like a 3-on-1 or a 2-on-1 if you want to put Kane there. Punk says, oh yeah, one more stipulation. We're going to have a Chicago street fight match. Punk and Taker have their Chicago street fight, and Punk retains the belts because of it. So, because, like, heel tactics and all, Heyman, Punk, The Shield, they're all ganging up, and all are basically screwing over Taker. Kane and Daniel Bryan try to even up the odds, because Bryan's Kane's partner, and he's going to probably help his partner and save his brother. And all of that would end up leading into the Shield getting them out. Basically, everything's going crazy. Kofi Kingston could also help because he lost the title to Ambrose, and he's probably still salty about that. So yeah, basically, everyone's gone crazy. But it all doesn't matter because Punk was able to retain the belt yet again due to shenanigans. Now, CM Punk's next feud would be John Cena because they had that whole little feud thing, and I think we all liked that feud. Like, they had great matchups. You know, the kind of stuff. So, yeah, Punk and Cena are going to happen on Payback. The entire thing, you have GM Punk ruining Cena's life. Like CM Punk changes his name to GM Punk from now on for this, and he ruins Cena's life, like how he did with Taker. He's weakening him down and putting him in all these unfair matchups, and it just gives Punk the advantage. A weakened down John Cena versus CM Punk, and Punk wins. As for how he wins, instead CM Punk is able to pull some techniques, have Heyman distract the referee long enough, or have the Shield run in and basically knock out the referee and make it look like an accident. Punk and the Shield and Heyman are basically torturing him, and Brock Lesnar could even come in because Lesnar is a Paul Heyman guy like Punk was, so maybe they'll have connection, and because of that, Lesnar just hits an F5 to help Punk win the belt. Punk, the referee does a slow count while Punk puts his foot on Cena's chest, the most disrespectful way in beating someone like Mr. Hustle, loyalty, and respect. Punk's next feud would be Mark Henry, and Mark Henry would have that whole retirement speech he had, but instead of it being John Cena saying, "Oh man, it sucks to see you go. You're such a nice dude. Have fun retiring," instead Punk mocks Mark Henry, saying all this stuff like, "Man, how pathetic. You never hold the WWE title. You only had to hold the side world champion. The world title no one matters about." Like, he's just disrespecting him. Punk saying that You don't deserve to be here. I should be firing you right now. Punk saying how you were never good enough to hold a champion, saying that he should have stuck to amateur wrestling, should have stuck to being a dad with Mae Young, and talk about the hand baby or something. Like, Punk's talking about all of Henry's bad times in the company. That's all he's referencing. Henry's like, you know what? I think I have one more entry in the Hall of Pain. Lifts Punk up, hits a World's Strongest Slam, holds the WWE title, and instead of being booed for attacking Super Cena, he's cheered for shutting CM Punk up. So I think the whole storyline here could be Punk going to retirement homes with old wrestlers. You know, all the old guys like Jimmy Snuka, Ultimate Warrior, uh, Mick Foley, all those guys. Macho Man. No, wait, Macho Man's dead. What am I talking about? Uh, Punk is kind of disrespecting everyone here. He's just disrespecting all the old guys, and we could get some funny moments with Punk there. Though, granted, I think people will complain about how, like, the indie marks especially would complain how Punk's getting to have all these comedic segments. But I think it would actually help when it comes to, like, comedy-wise. Punk has that reaction time for comedy that I think he could do good with it. So, yeah. Punk and Henry have their matchup Money in the Bank, and Punk retains like always because he's always able to find a way to outsmart his opponents because of him basically having high stakes in the match. I even think there should be some kind of thing where Paul Heyman, where like Punk's foot was under the rope and Mark Henry gets a 3 count and the match has to get resetted to get like some kind of boost. But however, in all actuality, Heyman moved his foot under the rope to make it look like that happened. I don't know. It would be some good heel heat to get Punk more heat so he can win the match, even though he wouldn't deserve it. But that's just my opinion on how that would go. Now, Punk's final feud will end up being Daniel Bryan, like his final feud with Champion. So, Bryan and Punk will have a more similar storyline to how Bryan versus the Authority was, and that's Punk just disrespecting him, saying all that stuff like, "Oh, you're not good enough to be a champion." Like, have Bryan work for it. Like, he does like a big matchup, like a battle royal. Punk rigs it, and Daniel Bryan wins the battle royal and has to fight Punk. Punk's pretty angry about it, and Bryan is the underdog going into this because why not? Punk's using his backstage power to just get Bryan all tired out, so Punk could have a better win. But Triple H comes out returning, and he does a promo saying, "Oh, actually, Punk, you actually sued the company, but I found out something while investigating." So he airs footage of Punk and Heyman at like the wrestling cafe, like the cafeteria room. Like have Heyman, Punk, like one of them are looking around. They grab like the mop bucket and just dump the water out. They remove a wet floor sign and have Punk or Heyman act like they slip. And maybe during the story, like have like around the Extreme Rules time, Heyman has like a comedic neck brace and a comedic wheelchair thing, kind of like that whole thing with Kurt Angle when he was a GM. So yeah, it's found out that that's happened, and Triple H ain't gonna fire Punk, but he's gonna make him pay. You see, Punk not only lied, but he basically used his power to weaken his opponents down before their matchups. So Punk is going to have to go through the same fate. On every night of Raw and SmackDown, Punk will have to compete against 3 random opponents. So Punk would know how it felt to be tired out after his big matchups. And he banned, like, all of his goons. You know, Paul Heyman and The Shield are banned from ringside from every single match Punk's in. Punk does some kind of shocked reaction, and Punk is basically just furious. So when Bryan and Punk does come along, Punk is a lot more tired out, but then again, it's going to be less of, this is so unfair, and more of, haha, you deserve it for how you treated the others. So Punk and Bryan have their match. This matchup will end up ending with Daniel Bryan tapping CM Punk out with the Yes Lock, and everyone being happy. But however, like in the original timeline, it's revealed that Triple H wasn't a part of Bryan's team, helps Randy Orton, who cashes in his briefcase, wins the champion, and everything that happened there goes the same. Now, due to real life injuries, Punk will actually be out. So, Punk will not be here for the rest of 2013 and will instead take his break. Punk basically That was one of the reasons he left, was because he was never treated with the respect he needed and was basically forced to compete while he was injured or something like that. So after his run with the WWE champion, it gives Punk enough time to rest at home. So yeah, now he can rest from August all the way till when he returns. And Punk's big return will be in the Royal Rumble. So Punk will instead be number 2, with some random guy being number 1, and Punk, I would assume around this point, would get a standing ovation. But Punk actually does better in the Rumble and lasts more than 20 minutes. He's the Iron Man and makes it to like somewhere in the finals, but gets eliminated. Now, even if Punk was booked to win, even if Punk was booked to win and get the world title instead, what would be the point? WrestleMania was in full effect. I don't think Punk's being a babyface would help. It'd probably, in fact, just get Punk booed out of the building because of it. So he does good, but he ain't gonna win the match, obviously, and he'll just get eliminated by Roman Reigns. Punk's next match is the 2014 Chamber match, where the matchup would go the same, but CM Punk will replace Christian from the match. So John Cena, Daniel Bryan, Randy Orton, Sheamus, and Cesaro, those 5 are still in it, but Christian will lose his matchup to Punk, and Punk will be in the match instead. So yeah, Punk will probably not make it that long. He'll probably make it to like the final 4, give or take. I would say he'd probably get eliminated by someone like Daniel Bryan or Randy Orton. I don't know. I haven't seen the match in a long time, so I don't know who would win or who would lose. I know Orton won, but I haven't seen the match in a while, so I don't really know how that match would play out with Punk replacing Christian. Maybe Christian was like the first elimination and Punk would just be the first elimination instead. I don't know. But I haven't seen the match in a while, so if you've seen the match, like you've seen it lately, or you're a big fan and always watch the match all the time and never get bored, tell me how Punk would do in Christian's spot. I'd like to hear. Now, for WrestleMania 30, Punk will be in. I'm gonna get hated for this, but Punk will be in the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal. Before you start saying I'm burying Punk, nope. This was when the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal actually meant something. It wasn't just some trophy there. They were hyping it up as a big deal. So Punk being there ain't gonna be a big deal. Having him compete there is not gonna bury him. It's not gonna ruin his career. So yeah, Punk and Cesaro, they eliminate Big Show together, and they're the final 2. Punk and Heyman are together lately, but however, Heyman turns on Punk when Punk's about to eliminate Cesaro or something. Heyman low blows Punk from behind, saves Cesaro. Cesaro hits like the neutralizer, chucks Punk over the ring, over the ropes, wins, and he becomes the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal winner. So Punk and Cesaro will be the feud for Extreme Rules, and the whole thing would have Punk basically wanting revenge on Heyman, and it would be Cesaro versus Punk. So now with Punk versus Cesaro, I would say Cesaro wins this match because this kind of gives Cesaro a boost up when it comes to like push wise. And I think Punk would put him over here. So yeah, making sure that he isn't like the worst choice to win the Andre the Giant Battle Royal. He beats Punk clean. But on Payback, Punk gets his redemption, and Punk is able to beat Cesaro this time. So yeah, now this would kind of make it even enough that Punk was able to beat Cesaro. The matchup would be really good in my opinion, and it would be good to kind of continue the feud. But the feud will have to take a rest because Punk and Cesaro will both be in the World Champion ladder match when Money in the Bank had that whole vacate thing because Bryan was injured. Yeah, I can't get around Bryan's injury. That's still gonna happen, unfortunately. So, yeah. Instead of it being Sheamus, it's CM Punk who's in the match. As for why, Sheamus was the United States champion around the time, so book him against a young talent like Bo Dallas or something. Maybe Bo can win. I doubt he would, but give him a nice moment. Punk taking Sheamus' spot would be a lot more interesting, because Punk is better in ladder matchups. He's obviously not winning because Cena wins LOL, and also because Heyman screws him up. It'd be like Money in the Bank 2013, where Punk's about to win, but Heyman yet again is able to distract him long enough, and Cesaro isn't able to win, but he's able to give a brief distraction for Cesaro to make it closer to winning than Punk. Punk has had enough with Cesaro and Heyman and challenges Cesaro to one final match at Battleground, which will settle the score, which Punk would win the match ultimately. Cesaro does a good showing, obviously, and does come close to beating Punk, but he's not close enough to score the W. So because that, Punk is still winning this match, and it gives a nice little Punk feel-good moment. So Punk challenges Lesnar to SummerSlam, but for starters, he's gonna have to squash John Cena and kill Super Cena, and in that whole Super Cena phase, and instead it's gonna be Punk versus Kane. Heyman and Punk, like, they still hate each other, and Punk's going after Heyman. Like, Heyman saying that he would use Brock Lesnar, but Lesnar's busy winning a world champion. So until he wins that champion, Punk's gotta wait. So Kane decides to put business in his own hand and fight Punk at SummerSlam. Obviously, Punk's winning this match, and it takes like 15 minutes, and it should be like a whatever match, because I don't know. Hot take, but Kane's not that good in the ring. Nothing to do with his political run, it's just, I never thought he was a good wrestler in the ring, so. Kill me. Just kill me if you want. All you Attitude Era, Ruthless Aggression, Kane fans, kill me if you want. I'm just spreading my truth, my opinion. So at Night of Champions, instead it's Punk versus Lesnar. Instead, John Cena and Punk have some kind of winner gets to fight Lesnar match, and Cena's putting up his title rematch clause, which Punk wins because at this point he's desperate to fight Brock, and Punk and Brock can have a decent match where Punk almost wins. Heyman's able to screw Punk up yet again, and we get Brock Lesnar winning, so that feud can still continue. They decide to end the match once and for all at Hell in a Cell, which will be in the Hell in a Cell match. So Punk and Lesnar will have a Hell in a Cell match instead, with Heyman trying to bust in the cage or something. Punk and Lesnar are actually doing a decent match, and I think Punk actually comes close. Punk has like some big spot planned, but then the lights turn off and turn back on, and Bray Wyatt stops him and becomes Punk's feud. Now this would change a lot because now it's not going to be the Ambrose Rollins feud with Bray. As for how that match ends, there's multiple scenarios, like either two. Option one, Ambrose does curb stomp Rollins' head in, and option two, the J&J and Kane are able to break through the cage and stop Ambrose from it. If we go with option one, that'd be the best choice, but with Survivor Series 2014 coming ahead, you can't really have Rollins kind of miss out that whole Team Cena, Team Authority thing. I mean, you can't really have Rollins miss out on nothing at that point, because you need him to kind of be Team Authority there, and you can't just, you have to have him sell the injury, so you have to give him like a month or two off, so you can't go with that idea. We'll go with the second idea, and we'll probably just say Ambrose is on Team Cena. I would probably say Ambrose could take Dolph's spot in the match, but I would honestly just replace him with either Ryback or Eric Rowan. So that kind of just happens. So instead it's Punk versus Bray. With Punk and Bray being a feud instead, I would probably see this match going the same as how how Ambrose and Bray went out originally. I think Punk could probably put on a better match in my opinion than Ambrose could with Bray, but everything like that would just go the same in my opinion. Punk and Bray have a decent match, double count out, and that hypes up to their match at TLC. And by TLC, I mean tables, ladders, and chairs, and stairs. Oh god, remember this one? Okay, so mine's from the extension of like the Luke Harper versus Dolph Ziggler match. Rest in peace, man. And John Cena versus Seth Rollins match. This show kind of sucked, but would recommend watching those two matchups. They were actually pretty fire. Punk taking Ambrose's spot would just be the same crappy match. Now, if I were to rewrite it, maybe instead don't do that dumb TV monitor finish. Give us like an entertaining Punk versus Bray match. Ambrose could probably do something else in the card, I guess. But Punk and Bray would just be there. I would personally give the win to Bray still. Kind of build him up more as a top star. But yeah, that's kind of what I would do there. So Punk still goes in the Royal Rumble at 2015, and he will probably be like 24 or something. He's in the final five with Ambrose, Roman, Big Show, and Kane, and Ambrose still gets eliminated, but however, Punk and Reigns together eliminate Kane and Big Show. Kane and Big Show beat up Roman, and The Rock still comes in to save the day, like always. Punk and Reigns still battle it out. However, this time around, when Rusev comes in, Rusev super kicks Roman Reigns, and Reigns instead bounces off the top ropes, and CM Punk does a roundhouse kick, which then has Roman Reigns get closer, only for Rusev to do one last super kick, and it super kicks Roman Reigns over the top ropes, with Rusev eliminating him. Punk and Rusev battle for a few minutes, ending with Punk hitting a roundhouse kick, a GTS. Rusev falls over the top ropes, with Punk throwing him out, and CM Punk wins the Royal Rumble 2015, and Roman Reigns does not get booed out, thankfully. So, on the road to WrestleMania, Punk will put his number one contender's WrestleMania World Title match against Seth Rollins. Now, I like these kind of matchups, and I think it would fit here, with the Authority kind of making it that way, so they can get their golden boy to get the main event of WrestleMania. Now, it's obvious they're not going to give Rollins his Money in the Bank up. Did you see Royal Rumble 2015? He was in the match and he didn't lose his briefcase. But back to the point, Punk and Rollins get a good match, and Punk's obviously winning because there's really no way that can happen. Now, a lot of people would like to say Bryan should be the one in this match, or Roman. I mean, yeah, I get it, but I think Rollins and Punk have that better connection. And plus, if you put Bryan in the match, chances are Punk's going to get booed out of the building. So it's place to play it safe. Have Rollins beat him, and so Punk can at least look like a babyface before going into WrestleMania. Now, WrestleMania 31, the main event will be Punk versus Lesnar. Reigns is somewhere else on the card. It really doesn't matter what you do with him. And most of the card actually is really the same here. But instead, Roman Reigns is just somewhere else on the card, and we get Punk versus Brock at the main event. Now, Punk and Lesnar put on a great 15 to 20 minute long match that's really good. And the same thing that happened in the original timeline still happens. Punk hits like 2 or 3 GTSs at that point. Like, he hits a fourth one now, and he's about to get the pin. Rollins' theme plays. He runs in, cashes in, beats Punk and the Brock Lesnar guy. I want to sound super stupid here. Rollins wins, and everything goes the same. The heist of the century is, I think, what they called it. Still goes on the same. Rollins wins the belt, and Punk is just left there visually angry. I just said angry. I'm just saying angry. You can tell I dropped out of kindergarten, can't you? So, Punk versus Rollins is going to be the obvious match to go to here. Now, I mean, a lot of people will say Orton was the best first opponent, but really, at this point, I think Punk and Rollins have the matchup that would work better. So, sorry, Orton, you're probably going to go against Roman Reigns on the card or something. Something weird like that. So, Punk versus Rollins is going to happen at Extreme Rules because it's the big matchup that I think would make the most amount of money. So, Punk and Rollins have a match at Extreme Rules. Stipulation, we'll say it's like some kind of crazy stipulation. Like, I don't know, an Extreme Rules match or something. And Rollins is going to retain the belt because Rollins just held the belt. You can't have him drop it to Punk. It'd be kind of dumb. So, yeah. At the end of the day, Rollins is retaining. So, Payback happens, and it's Punk versus Rollins versus Roman versus Ambrose versus Orton. It's a big Fatal 5-Way match I think you can mark it off of, and I could say the matchup goes the same like the original Fatal 4-Way did. So, he's probably going to pin Orton. Punk's just there to get a picture. So, he's making a bit. So that goes the same in my opinion. Punk will be in the Bank matchup for that year, which I replaced another guy. I forgot who. I need to relook at the match. So, at this point, the matchup that happened originally kind of stays the same. but with Neville, Sheamus, Ziggler, Roman, Kane, Orton, and Punk. Those are the guys in the match. Sheamus is still going to win this match, even though it was kind of a dumb idea, and I think if it was going to have to go to someone, it'd probably been best to give it to Dolph, Orton, or Neville. But, is what it is. Sheamus is still getting the money in the bank, and Punk's just there to add an extra guy to the match. Punk's next opponent will be at Battleground with Dean Ambrose. So, that match happens. Great match, by the way. Ambrose wins, but after that, Punk loses it. He finally turns heel. Punk finally gets a heel turn, kind of dropping the babyface gimmick, because at that point, it's been gone on for over a year. And now it's time to change back to his heel persona, which has always been better than his face persona, in my honest opinion. So, Punk beats the crap out of Ambrose, like, brutally. Like, grabs some weapons, kayfabe injure maybe, if you want to go that route. So, Punk beats the crap out of Ambrose, and on the next night of Raw, they have a rematch, which Punk destroys Ambrose. Punk beats him with the Anaconda Vice. Ambrose is tapping out, the bell's ringing, but Punk keeps holding it in, and Punk then goes on the mic and challenges his next opponent. As for this next opponent, his opponent will end up being Sting, which, I mean, a lot of people are going to be like, oh, you can't do that. Punk versus Sting isn't going to make sense. They need to have Sting still return for that Rollins match. Now, here's the thing. Rollins and Sting happened 1 month earlier, meaning Sting in this universe, like, I mean, he's still going to be injured, but here, he's perfectly fine. And it's not going to be a big deal to put Sting and Punk up in a match. Like on SummerSlam, it can be a short match or something like that. Give them like 15 to 20 minutes, and you can get an okay match out of it. But Punk wins. It would be a shocker, I know, and it seems very unlikely Vince would do it. But Punk wins. That's gonna be what happens here. I know a lot of people are gonna be angry because Sting loses another match on his WWE career. But then again, that WWE career, the moment he lost to Triple H, you could tell Sting was not going to do good. Punk's next opponent will be a guy he hates to work with, and I know I'm going to hear this, but I'm going to win an Intercontinental title #1 contender match, and instead of it being Kevin Owens, it's Punk who's going to go against Ryback. And the whole storyline could be Punk reminding Ryback that he couldn't beat him for the world title, meaning Punk has Ryback's number because Ryback has never beat Punk in a match. I mean, I think he probably could have on like an episode of Raw. If he has, you can remind me, so. But at this moment, like major matchup wise, Ryback has never beat Punk, and that can be the story going in this match. Now, Hell in a Cell is going to happen, and Punk and Ryback will get a rematch, because Ryback would want his rematch clause. Now, Punk's obviously winning this matchup because I don't really think Punk needs a short title run. He's that kind of guy who can hold the title for a long time, and I just really think it fit very well to kind of just give him one more match. And this is going to be the last time Punk and Ryback will fight, so they'll just have 2 matchups, and then they'll just be out of their way, never to speak each other again. That matchup happens. Punk wins. Now, Hell in a Cell is going to happen, with the rest of his IC Punk title and run. Ryback will get a rematch, because Ryback would want his rematch clause. Now, Punk's obviously winning this matchup because I don't really think Punk needs a short title run. He's that kind of guy who can hold the title for a long time, and I just really think it fit very well to kind of just give him one more match. And this is going to be the last time Punk and Ryback will fight, so they'll just have 2 matchups, and then they'll just be out of their way, never to speak each other again. That matchup happens, Punk wins, and Punk could go on with the rest of his IC title run. Punk will now go into the Survivor Series tournament thing, where Punk would go some kind of distance in the tournament. I'd probably replace Alberto Del Rio with Punk, and CM Punk will most likely end up losing to Roman in the semifinals. Punk beats whoever the first 2 round opponents Del Rio went against on Raw, and Punk loses to Roman on Survivor Series because there's no way Punk's going to go over corny Reigns. So Punk loses. Roman Reigns still fights Dean Ambrose. Roman Reigns still gets an unnecessary title run, only for Sheamus to cash in, beat him to have an unceremoniously title run. That's kind of what would go on. The rest of the world title just goes the same at that point. Punk's next opponent will be Dean Ambrose, which will be the final pay-per-view of 2015. I think you can give them some kind of crazy stipulation like a ladders match or a tables match or something. Punk's going to win this match. As for why, Ambrose really getting the Intercontinental title there was just kind of unnecessary. Like, he held the title for 2 months, and he only dropped it to Owens, who he did beat for the title, so, like, what was the point of having that happen? So, yeah, Punk's going to end up retaining the belt here, because really, what's the point of giving it back to Ambrose if you're gonna have him drop it to the same guy again? That's kind of obvious, and I think Punk's run's gonna be similar to Owens here. Now, Royal Rumble happens with CM Punk and Dean Ambrose having a Intercontinental title rematch. I think, like Owens and Punk, it would be a last man standing match, so we're gonna say it's that. Punk's going to actually retain the belt here, and Ambrose will not win this match. But it'd be a nice little match to have, because I actually think Punk and Ambrose can pull off a last man standing match better, because Punk's a lot more hardcore than Owens is. So, having them hard together better, in my honest opinion. So, yeah, that. Now, speaking of horrible match, Punk's in it, one, obviously. So, that match just goes the same, with Triple H still coming in, grabbing the golden shovel one last time, and burying as much talent as he can. Punk would probably be eliminated around the beginning or middle half of the Rumble, so thankfully Punk ain't gonna fight Triple H in that match. On Fastlane, Punk's next opponent will be a triple threat, which will be Dolph Ziggler and The Miz. I think this would be a pretty good matchup and would fit Punk's personality more. Kind of putting Punk, who's now this delusional heel, into a match with two guys like Ziggler. I would say Punk would win because in triple threat, it's like when a heel's in a triple threat, the odds of it being happening is a babyface gets out the other heel or the other face out, is about to win, but then the heel comes in with some kind of cheap tactic, throws the face out of the match, pins the other heel or face in the match. 1, 2, 3, it's over. That's kind of how the matchup would go. So Punk's going to probably, like, Ziggler's going to do most of the work. He's going to get the Miz out. Punk throws him out, pins the Miz. 1, 2, 3, and Punk retains the belt there. Punk will now be in a 8-man ladder match, which will include Sami Zayn, Kevin Owens, Zack Ryder, Stardust, Dolph Ziggler, Sin Cara, and The Miz. So the 7 guys from the original timeline, and Punk's added in there for an extra. Now, if you're wondering why this is an 8-man ladder match, I actually think it would work. They have power, and I think the whole Punk trying to like, hey, listen, these guys might don't like it. It's just an 8-man ladder match would only make it better. And like in the original timeline, Zack Ryder is a match. Only for that despair, because WWE hates us, to give The Miz the belt 24 hours later. But thankfully, The Miz had probably one of the best, if not the best, Intercontinental title run out from any wrestler. Name one, I dare you. I just think The Miz had a better run. Take me on. So, Punk's now done with the Intercontinental title, and instead he's going to move his sight into another title. A champion he's never won. The United States Champion. Yes, Punk has never won the United States title in his entire career. He won the dead ECW Champion. He won the Intercontinental Champion, the WWE Champion, but he's US. That is very bizarre. So, yeah, instead, we're going to get Punk versus Kalisto at Payback. And Punk becomes the new US title because of it. Maybe we can get an actual good US title run from a heel. Nothing like this typical anti-American heel US title run, which has honestly been done to death at this point. And I've always felt like the Intercontinental title was always the best heel title, while the US title was always the best face title. Because whenever it goes to a heel with the Intercontinental title, you have a better heel. Most heels with the US title is just an anti-American gimmick, so maybe Punk can actually spice up the title here. So we basically go to Extreme Rules, which Punk and Kalisto will have a rematch clause. Kalisto will not win the match, obviously, but we get a decent little U.S. title match. I think Punk would challenge into some kind of like Chicago street fight. I don't know where Extreme Rules take place at. Oh yeah, fun fact, I actually was attended live on the Go Home show to Extreme Rules 2016. I wasn't there for the actual pay-per-view, but I was there for the Go Home show for the pay-per-view on Raw live. Yeah, I could tell you about that story one day. If you wonder what that included, it was where the Ambrose Asylum match was introduced. Yeah, WWE really screwed up that match. But that will be a video for something like What Culture to talk about. I'm not talking about how matchups were ruined. I'm talking about fantasy booking slash what ifs. So, yeah, Punk beats Kalisto. Punk's next opponent will end up being Sin Cara, because Sin Cara would want to avenge his bro, Kalisto, for losing to Punk. So the storyline could be something like that, and we could get Punk versus Sin Cara. Now, this is Sin Cara, so expect a botch or two in this match. Jokes aside, Punk and Sin Cara can actually do an alright match. Punk's obviously retaining the belt because, really, you think Punk's gonna lose to Sin Cara of all people? Yeah, that's obvious. Punk's retaining the belt. Sin Cara, get wrecked, scrub. Next opponent will be Adrian Neville because I think these two would have a decent match. So now you give Punk another little cruiserweight guy to fight. Because I think Punk vs. Neville would be a decent little match because both are really good in the ring and both little high flyers and stuff. But however, Neville's ending up going to beat Punk for the title because I think it would make a lot of sense. And plus, I don't really think Punk would be a long U.S. title. Give him a small little U.S. title run just so we can have him be a Grand Slam. So Neville's going to win the belt. And he'd probably just play temporary title to Rusev. So Ruru will lose to the Big Dog. So yeah, like all that can happen. So the little draft happens, and I should have probably switched the battleground. Whatever, I don't care. Yeah, the draft isn't really full. So Punk will go to Raw because I come a little bit later. Trust me, we're gonna Raw down, which I think the mark right down, but I think he'd fit Raw better. You'll see. Here, they're gonna fight. Punk wins. Alright, I'm gonna have to do something. I'm going to have to instead just show random parts of what happens in the story. I'm not going to say the reasons on why this stuff happens, and instead I'm just going to do this. I'm just going to show a bunch of random highlights. I'm not going to be able to talk because my audio is not working correctly. I will remake this video, okay? So I will do it with the audio and all. So at this moment, I'm sorry you're not going to hear my voice for the rest of this. You're just going to see everything that happens in the rest of the story. And I maybe could probably say who wins and loses the matchups. I'm super sorry about this, but the audio of my phone and recording ain't working. This is just the only thing I gotta do. I hate to do it because I don't want it to be this way, but it's gotta be this way. I'm sorry.